And we are live. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic session hosted by our School of Financial Planning and Insurance. My name is Michaela. I'm from the marketing team. Just to get us started, I'm going to hand over to Marissa, who's going to tell us more about the session and more about our beautiful speaker. Handing over to you, Marissa.
Thank you so much, Michaela. So good morning, everyone. It is my absolute great honor to welcome you to this Motivation and Study Step webinar. So like Michaela said, I'm Resheka Mahadow and I'm the lecturer in the short-term department for Milpark. So guys, I don't want to take up a lot of your time. Resheka has a lot of insight to share with you. But I just want to give you a little bit of history on why we decided to host these webinars. So from our interaction with the students and the feedback from students during the last few months, also realizing that students, in a sense, are a little bit scared, scared of the unknown, scared of all the changes happening around us with their studies, all the changes related to the pandemic. We just realized we need to give our students and offer our students more everything. So we cannot just give you our students the best knowledge and the best education. And yes, I can say that because we have the numbers and the statistics to back that up. So we also need to create and develop employable and usable skills that you guys can take forward into the future. So we are in the process of developing a range of soft skills, as they call it. I don't like it. I don't like the word soft in the whole thing about it, because there's nothing soft about what we are, these webinars and these skills that you need to learn. These are life skills, or as my mother used to call it, it is the backbone skills that you will need for your future. So guys, without me rambling on too much, it is then my great pleasure to introduce you guys to Resheka, who has 23 years experience in the financial services industry. Well, not only that, she's done a lot of things, but also we are also very proud that she's an MBA alumni of Milpark, and in 2015 she also completed a course in professional business coaching from the Gordon's Institute of Business Science. So guys, without further ado, I hand you over to Resheka to inspire you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you. Good morning, Marissa, and thank you for that lovely and warm introduction. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with all of you this morning, and if you can't sense it or see it, I'm extremely nervous, and I'm also extremely excited to be here with you. So thank you for this opportunity to Marissa. This is actually her idea, as well as thank you to Milpark for affording me this opportunity. So I'm going to go straight into it, if that's okay with everyone. We are talking about motivation and study skills. So if we have to think about this, history has proven those who imagined the impossible broke all limitations. If you think of every field of human endeavor, whether science, medicine, technology, or sports, the name of people who have imagined the impossible are engraved in our history. So going beyond the limits of one's beliefs and imagination has changed the world. So I invite you during our time here this morning to consider that for yourself, and note that this is not an academic talk. So if you find yourself trying to understand or analyze intellectually, what I'm about to share with you requires that you bring yourself back. So remind yourself that you are doing something different, bring yourself back, and give yourself the opportunity to hear as much as you can without trying to understand or analyze. This is the one time that you don't have to do that. So whether your assessment of the world is positive or negative, the results of the world is actually through motivation. All of us experience feeling demotivated, unable to do certain things. And that often feels like drudgery. We can't get the energy to get going. It feels like it depletes us as opposed to energize us. So what we do is we find a way to cope. Michaela, may I have the next slide, please? So coping mechanisms. To cope is to make a specific alteration, either mentally, physically, or emotionally, that allows you to manage or adapt to a situation that is causing you stress. So a coping mechanism is a process, a technique, a procedure that enables you to do just that, cope. Now, coping mechanisms take on many forms, such as gambling, binging, smoking, procrastination, humor, attacking, denial, regressing, overcompensation, self-blaming, self-harm, humility, forms of escapism, blaming, physical recreation, especially overexertion and physical recreation, etc. Did you perhaps recognize your vice of choice as a coping mechanism in there? It's okay if you haven't, because sometimes it's what feels like normal to us. So as you probably know or have experienced in your own life, thank you for that. Stress is a serious business for everyone. A person basically cannot thrive in a stressful atmosphere or environment. In fact, as soon as stress is introduced into a person's life, their well-being is immediately compromised and declines. Therefore, it is obvious why we would want to run away from any stressful situation as fast as we possibly can. However, a coping mechanism is like emotional morphine. Improper usage could result in having actually a bigger problem on your hands than the original threat. As most of us have experienced, too much of anything good isn't great for us. This then applies, the same applies to coping mechanisms. You see, the challenge comes in when we use a coping mechanism we choose to avoid the stress. And that then later presents a problem in our life because we are using a coping mechanism to create a life. So the temporary relief that you find from a coping mechanism that actually allowed you to push through the original challenge of stress now becomes a problem because it stops you from creating. It stops you from creating your own life. It stops you from being inspired, and it stops you from being motivated. So the conundrum with this is the only thing that we are motivated to work on are problems that cause us pain. So if we don't find the pain, we're unlikely to do anything about it. So here's the kicker. Coping mechanisms don't cause us pain initially or upfront, but repeated application of the coping mechanism actually results in behavior and future pain. So this then begs the question, how do we resolve a problem that does not directly hurt and does not register in our conscious mind as a problem, even though it is a problem and does eventually lead to pain? Sounds pretty challenging, and we all face this, but it's okay. Let's unpack and demystify this conundrum. Next slide, please, Michaela. So if you find yourself uninspired or unmotivated, chances are you haven't answered your why. From the moment the alarm rings in the morning, most people grab their phone, hit the snooze button a few times, then switch off the alarm, probably turn on their phone, and start indulging in their first pleasure of the day, stroking their phone. Think about it. How did you wake up this morning? Did you have the same thoughts you have every morning? Did you even observe that you had thoughts? When you got out of bed, Did you check in with your body? Did you notice anything different? Or did you just continue a day with the same thoughts as you always do? If you were lost in your thoughts, it's okay. Most people do this and we did not know any different. But this is also called life on autopilot. And most of us exist in this. In fact, 95% of our day we spend in autopilot. When you do exist in autopilot, you are actually existing from past conditioning. So I want you to play a little game with me. Think about this. Imagine you are holding in your arms two groceries that would fill the contents, would fill 2 bags, the contents of 2 full bags of groceries. Imagine that you're holding it in your arms. Have you got that picture? Probably difficult, right? Even if it's the tiniest of items, it's difficult to hold on to that. Now imagine adding a 5-liter bottle of water to your arm. To your arms. You want to hold everything. What does that feel like? Are you struggling? Are you trying to hang on to everything? If you are, this is the angst and the dilemma we feel when we try to introduce something new into our lives. That water bottle is something new. We focus on the angst and avoid incorporating the new and the unknown for many reasons. Yeah, exactly. Heavy, really heavy, and we don't like heavy, so we want to avoid heavy. The biggest reason being we believe that we need all the items. We want to hang on to everything because we don't know any better. Next slide, please, Michaela. Thank you. So I ask you, do you take time out for yourself? And what I mean by that is time for yourself. So I'm not referring to walking your dog, listening to music, spending time with your best friend or your favorite activity, or for that matter, exercising or going to gym. That's not the context that I'm referring to here. What I'm referring to is actually spending time alone. Alone doing nothing. No music, no white noise, not even meditation, no journaling, nothing. Just you and your thoughts, having a conversation with yourself in contemplation and reflection, very much like you'd have a conversation with someone that you're trying to get to know. Have a conversation with yourself in contemplation and reflection. Now, if you haven't done this before, how do you know what is important in your life? How do you know what direction you want to go in? How do you know whether the things that you're busy with are the right things for you? Chances are these are coming from your past conditioning. How do you know where you want to go? What are the challenges that you want to work on? And what's the priority of those challenges that you want to work on if you don't have the contemplation and reflection? So if you think about it, another way of thinking about this is most people would not accept an offer of employment with an organization that has no vision, no mission, no structure, no clarity, no direction, no CEO. You're unlikely to accept a job offer from such an organization because you want to progress. You want to add value. You want to do something different. You want to be inspired. So the reality here is that you are your own brand and you're CEO of your own life. So if you don't have structure and you don't have direction and don't have a vision and you're not sure why you're doing the things you're doing or the choices that you're making, you don't have a strong foundation or brand. But that's okay, because we can all get started. And here's a tip to how to get started with that. During your alone time, where you contemplate and reflect. Make a list of the things that you do to avoid stress. So whatever your coping mechanisms may be, make a list of that. Then take on the perspective of either being a philosopher or a lawyer. Now you could do this at one role at a time, with you being the one person and the lawyer or the philosopher being the other person. And during this alone time, you're going to argue or debate, depending on the roles that you choose, as to why these respective coping mechanisms are no longer positive for you. Why are they now detrimental to you? As much as they're your coping mechanisms and you use them, have the conversation with yourself. That is a starting point of becoming aware. You see, your coping mechanism, becoming aware of your coping mechanism is priceless, because this is the primary agent for change. Next slide, please. Thanks, Michaela. You may have heard this before, but let it sink in again. Your beliefs create your reality. Perception is your reality. Perception comes from beliefs. Beliefs come from perceived thoughts. What you believe comes from the subconscious mind, filtering through the environment through something called the reticular activating system. The reticular activating system acts as the brain's gatekeeper, using beliefs formed in our early life that sift through the incoming information and prioritize evidence that supports these beliefs. In short, the reticular activating system finds information that reinforces what we already believe to be true. So it keeps us in the same loop. Chances are then that you are viewing your life from the perspective of external sources. What you think are the answers to what you want, and what you think or you want believe changed in your external environment for things to be better in your life, are actually most probably not the answers or solutions, because they're coming from perceived thoughts. So have you noticed where you did manage to get an external change and you felt temporary relief or enjoyed your situation, how quickly after that did you return back into a slump? From your latest gains, you may have enjoyed it, you might still even remember it, but you still don't feel that anymore. You just don't feel the energy anymore. You're not as excited about it anymore. You're looking for your newest pursuit. You're looking for something else. This is often the cause as to why most people feel that they can't actually achieve anything, or for that matter, can't even get started. This is one of the continuous loops of how we sabotage ourselves, frustrate ourselves, and actually prevent our own growth. So how does this all make sense in the subject of studying? That's why we're here. Let's look at it. You've registered for a course. You're probably listening to your lectures or attending lectures, if that's still possible, in terms of what you're doing, or maybe you're watching videos. You're probably trying to squeeze in some study time after work if you have a full-time job. I know what that's all like. I remember those days very well. And you're probably attempting to do the assignments. But still, it all feels like a drag. You'd rather watch paint dry than persevere. That's how bad it is. Sounds familiar? It's okay if you're shy and you don't want to admit. It's still very familiar to many people. But I'm awesome, thank you. I'm here to tell you it's okay. You're not alone. And there's nothing wrong with you. In fact, you're the absolute great place to be. For this is the first step. Thank you, guys. For this is the first step to awareness and curiosity. The doorway out of that slump and into the empowered beliefs. Stay with me, guys. Next slide, please, Michaela. Becoming aware of your why. And guys, only you can answer your why. And what you want allows us to have awareness around our thoughts, our habits, our patterns, which is the foundational step to transformation. When you are so determined in your life and clear about what you want, and you are willing to give up everything and everyone that is not aligned to that goal, then you are living a life that is in alignment to your purpose. This is a start to spending the rest of your life in sync with who you are. And that's a powerful place that's unshakable, irrespective of the task ahead or your external environment. Now, your life will ebb and flow, but having the strong foundation is the best source and partner you could have going forward. You control the web. You can read the best books. You can listen to the best speeches. For sure, you can get bits and pieces of information. But if your attention is drawn to just picking out all interesting bits and pieces, and your mind is searching as to how you're going to use those interesting bits and pieces, then all you're doing is you're not processing that information. You're just repackaging it, and you're not adding any value. And again, it is because you're coming from past conditioning and past thoughts. Hence, it is important to become clear on your why. Therefore, unless you have a deeper understanding of yourself and you're clear on what you want, and you have a structured approach to learning, you include someone that is able to guide you, you have a support system, you never really learn. You need these foundational groundings in order to support your growth. We all do. Today, our lives are immersed in technology. Technology has trained us to believe that there's a quick fix to everything. We order most things online, and it's delivered, depending on where in the world you are, sometimes instantaneously or within a very short space of time. We can access instant answers to the wackiest of questions. We search for hacks of our mind, hacks of our body. We even search for hacks of how to be successful overnight. We gravitate to instant gratification. Just look at how we start the day. We pleasure ourselves by stroking a cold, hard device the first thing as we wake. Not pretty. We're trained to get things almost instantaneously. So it's no surprise that we apply this principle to our life. We want the solutions, and we want to feel good from those solutions all in the same minute. And that's if we're patient. We all know this, but I'm going to say it anyway. There is no hack to life, nor do you want that. The same way you would not want to deny a child the experience of the various stages of life, for that would be denying the child a full experience. It's the same way, no, is that sustainable? In the same way, you wouldn't want to deny yourself that opportunity. And it's also not sustainable for you. As adults, our life situations have evolved. Our perspectives have changed. Our responsibilities have increased. And our experiences have shaped our beliefs and our lives. Our dreams and desires have become more serious. But we are on the exact same path that we were as kids. The only difference being that we are now either supported or burdened by those experiences and the acquired knowledge. You see, how we interpret those experiences, the meaning we give to those experiences, and the stories that we tell ourselves about those experiences determines our choices and decisions. And actually, they're reflected back to us in terms of what we call our lives. So again, the first step is to get clear on what you want and why you want it. Whether it is in the short term or in the long term, get clear. Motivation then becomes a natural consequence from that. Basically, it just follows. Next slide, please. Thank you. Stay with me. We're going to get a little bit deeper on this. We get used to being comfortable, whether it is with our homes or apartments, city, local convenience store, surroundings, friends, relationships, especially relationships. It's a natural process. It's what we do as humans. We do not embrace change easily. And that's not to say that we can't or we don't want to, but it does take some effort. More specifically, it takes awareness, and we need to know, most importantly, what's in it for us. You see, you've probably heard this, that the mind is like a muscle, and you can train your mind just as you train your body. We've all heard this at some point in our life, which then means that's good news, because if we can reshape our minds, we're on a good path. We can shape our minds to a new way of thinking, of behaving, and we can do that and then progressively hold that like you would once you train your body. So how is this possible? Just as you would approach physical exercise, through repetition, in a slow, patient, and determined way, in the same way you would do that with your mind, by doing the same thing over and over again. This then creates memory, ease, and then it also creates mind muscle. For a better understanding of how to do this, let's break down the mind. Next slide, please. So the mind can be broken down into three parts. This would be the instinctive, the intellect, and the intuitive aspects of the mind. Here's some examples of how that works. The instinctive mind would straight up say no to anything that's outside the comfort zone of what it has known from the past. If it's not familiar, it's not going to be okay. It already feels barriers going up. The instinctive mind likes the same thing. It loves repetition within what it has come to know. So it becomes familiar and it feels safe and secure. And that is where the instinctive mind resides. It resides in safety and security. The intellect. Now this intellect brings in reasoning. It's also the part of that mind that says, I'll do it later. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll make a plan. It also brings in fear. This is the part of the mind that brings in fear. And it can do backflips on analysis paralysis. The intellectual mind likes new things, which is also why the intellectual mind can be fascinated for hours by the internet that's constantly serving something new. Now, the intuitive mind, that's a whole different story. The intuitive mind basically knows it's either right or wrong. No discussion there. So by now, if you aren't already aware, you are probably becoming aware and realizing that you are neither the body nor the mind. If you're neither the body nor the mind, that means you have to be awareness. Yes, it does sound familiar. You've heard it over and over again. But how often do we incorporate this, embed it, embody it into our lives? The challenge we all face is until we become aware that we are awareness, we live from the mind. So this is where the popular idea comes from, that the thoughts that are reflected in your mind are actually your life. Your external environment reflects your life because it emanates from your thoughts. So if you find yourself stuck in a certain place, look at your external environment. It is a reflection of how your awareness is working in your mind. Therefore, it is safe to say that your awareness in that situation is stuck in a particular area of the mind, as there is no separation between the inner state and the outer state. The good news, as we've said, is you can recreate the mind. Next slide, please. Thank you. So to shift your focus, excuse me, guys. Thank you. To shift your focus from awareness, your goal is to take your awareness from your conscious mind and move it through your subconscious mind, thus becoming mindful. If this is starting to sound weird or difficult, stay with me. For this is you in for a surprise here. You're actually closer than you even think to getting out of any stuck feelings. All of this basically ties back to your why and getting clear on what you want. When you have the answers to your why, you're basically clear and you can proceed. You become mindful about your actions, about your choices, about your words, about your thoughts, about your behaviors, about your friends, about your business choices, your business partners, your business decisions, your diet, how you spend your time, where you focus your energy, how you spend your money, basically every belief in your life. This in turn then means you are now ready to recreate, from that space that I've just described. This now means that you are ready to recreate the mind. More specifically, the instinctive mind, that part of the mind that one needs to feel safe and secure before you proceed with anything. That part of the mind that also keeps you motivated to keep going. So if you look at the instinctive mind, the intellectual and the intuitive aspect of the mind, the one thing that you want to do is ensure that the instinctive mind is safe and secure. And the easiest way to do this, and the simplest way to do this, is to create rituals and routines. Very much the same as you've unconsciously created a ritual and routine in many parts of your life, like grabbing your phone the first thing, or as soon as you hear the buzz on your phone, instead of continuing a conversation with someone, you are directed to what your phone is doing. Very similar, you create new rituals and routines. When that happens, the instinctive aspect of the mind becomes safe and secure. That fear and flight feeling dissipates. And now it's easy to move through the instinctive mind and the intellectual mind, those aspects of the mind that you want to come forward to support you in doing whatever your right choice is from your why. So you're no longer imprisoned by your thoughts in this case, resulting in higher levels of motivation. Next slide, please. Can you hear me flipping paper here, guys? That's because I've written my notes. I wasn't sure how nervous I was going to be. So cultivating the mind. There are 3 qualities that I have found that you can use in mastering yourself. Now, these 3 qualities are also qualities that are used by monks. They are humility, obedience, and responsiveness. Now, humility is a state of knowing. I know, I do not know anything. That's a hard one to swallow and a hard one to accept. But bear with me. If you adopt this attitude, I am in the beginning of my path. I know nothing. I'm super enthusiastic and I want to learn and grow and remain open and receptive. And thus learning and growing, whether formal or informal, becomes an accepted part of life. Obedience, on the other hand, not a popular word, especially if you're thinking, I don't like to be told what to do. I hear you, I feel you, I'm with you on that. But I'm not referring to obedience as your teacher. I'm referring to obedience in the reference of, I'm not referring to obedience as your teacher, and that's my place here. Your teacher is actually not your only reference to teaching. Teaching can come on in many forms. In my life, I have had teachers in the form of trauma, in the form of overcoming cancer. This day that you see is curly chemo. And I can tell you that your teacher is your best guidance. What we're talking about here is teacher can take on many forms. Be open and receptive to the teacher. Obedience is here as your trust. Go with it. Obedience is staying obedient to your intuitive mind. And it is an all-knowing part of your mind. So when you get an intuitive feeling, do you know that gut feeling? When you're clear on your why and your what, and you know where you're going, you can trust that intuitive feeling. No longer do you question, is that intuitive feeling positive or negative? Is this fear or should I go with it? And that's how you direct your life. The third point on responsiveness ties in with having a strong internal locus of control. So you are able to adapt to changes from the external environment without feeling sideswiped. Now, here's an example of what I mean. Sorry, and reframing, by the way, goes hand in hand with responsiveness. Here's what I mean. Let's take an example of chores. We all hate chores, right? They suck. How can we reframe that? If you are someone who's motivated by, let's say, meditative practices, you like that feeling of intention, you like that feeling of becoming present and acting from the now, you can use that very experience, that very chore, and transform that chore into turning it into a meditative practice. So, for example, you would immerse yourself into that chore and immerse yourself into the sensations you feel from that chore. When you start focusing on the sensations of the chore, you are then therefore going deeper into the meditative practice whilst actually being aware of the feelings and sensation. Now your mind moves away from the chore and back into the sensations, and therefore, believe it or not, that chore becomes something that you enjoy. Maybe you won't look forward to it, but the next time you have to do the chore, you're looking forward to that experience as opposed to the chore. There's another example that we can talk about. So if you hate work, or you hate the idea of working for money, you must like the idea of abundance. Most people do. Basically, we all need abundance, and we enjoy abundance. So focus on that feeling of abundance. What does work give you? It gives you the opportunity to be abundant. When you focus on the abundance as opposed to the chore of the work or the drudgery of having to go to work, or for that matter, if money feels like a heavy subject for you, focus on abundance. And therefore, then that becomes a pleasurable idea for you. Now, how does this then tie back into learning? Why do we learn? Most of us learn because we want autonomy. We love freedom. We enjoy choice. And part of that is studying or learning. Now reframe that thought. Take the idea of studying and find what you gain from that gives you freedom, that gives you autonomy, that gives you choice. That is an empowered belief. Reason being, put another way, learning uses creativity. Creativity leads to thinking. Thinking leads to freedom. Thinking also provides knowledge. Knowledge empowers you. And empowerment leads you back to autonomy and freedom. This belief is also more likely to support you, not just in studying, but in your future life. Now, in every situation that you feel unmotivated in, you can find something inherent in that situation that really does motivate you. If you can find alignment, that is finding alignment to your personal best interest. In other words, you can find things that interest you within things that don't interest you. You can find a goal that motivates you within basically anything, including to not have a goal. When you find a goal or set an intention that really does motivate you, even when you are doing things that feel at face value you would not necessarily want to do, those things will fill you with energy and instead of deplete you. And when something fills you with energy, then you go deeper into it. So what I've shared here to this point leads to a natural progression of what works best for you, and thus allows you to remain motivated in whatever aspect of your life you're struggling with, including studying. So at this point, next slide, please. So at this point, I would like to share with you some additional pointers that are valuable study skills. Now, you have probably heard all of this before, but I, again, humbly request that you listen to this from a new perspective, and not just listen to it, but actually put it into practice. I have done that, and I have many clients who have done this and have found that it has made a big difference in their life. I'm going to go through some of these pointers with you. You're welcome to take down these notes if you haven't heard them before, or just listen to them. So some of them are, for example, work according to your own rhythm. When are you the most energized? When do you feel the best? Are you a night owl or you an early riser? Don't listen to what everyone else tells you. Do what is best for you. Look at your own energy rhythms. Set daily, weekly, and monthly goals. You've heard this before, right? But be clear on what achieving a goal looks like and means to you. Then have a plan of how you're going to meet those goals. Demarcate a specific area as to where you're going to study, and use that area only for study. Make it a sacred place just for study. Reward yourself when you meet your goals, because now you know what that goal is, you know what it looks like, and when you do achieve it, reward yourself, whatever that reward means to you. Reassess your plan if you're not meeting your goals, or for example, if something unforeseen crops up in your life, you would have to reassess your plan. Constantly look at your plan. At the end of every week, look at the plan and see if it still means something to you, and if you're getting the momentum that you set out to get. Reach out to people who will be a strong and beneficial support system. And also be clear with them as to what you would want from them with regards to support. What does that mean for you? What are you looking for from them? When you encounter a seemingly difficult subject, break it down for your own understanding and use your support system to share what you are learning. Check in with them and embed that knowledge through discussions with them to cement your own learning and get clear on your understanding of the subject matter. Take any subject, read it, then summarize it, and then explain it to someone. And if you have no one to explain it to yourself. I often talk to myself in the mirror. Then take care of your nutrition and your hydration, especially when you're sitting for long study hours. We forget to hydrate, and the lack of hydration often makes us feel tired and demotivated. Get as much natural light as you possibly can. Fresh air too, very important. And ensure that you're getting as much exercise as you can, whatever that form of exercise means to you. Get enough sleep. And again, as much as we may read 6 hours, 8 hours is what you need, your biorhythm speaks to you. Get the amount of sleep that feels good for you. And be accountable to yourself and open to feedback. Last slide, please. So you would have noticed in all that I've shared here today with you, the word passion did not feature. Every single one of us is born with a talent and skill. That talent and skill has to be identified, extracted, nurtured, and supported. In answering your why, your goals become clear, whether tangible or intangible. And your talent and skills are then exposed. They're then pursued with ease. Passion and motivation are inextricably intertwined, when the goal is in sync with your why. And remember, what you give your attention to grows. Thank you everyone for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure having to share this with you this morning.
Thank you so much, Resheka. That was amazing. I don't know about you guys watching. I see there's 51 of you, and there was 55. But that was incredible. Can I please have a copy of this recording? Yes, indeed. I will tell you very happily, Rihanna, that we have this recorded automatically. And this will be available to you. I just want to quickly invite Marissa back as well, just to give her feedback. So just while we are together, guys, if you have any questions for our amazing speaker, please pop them in the Ask a Question facility. We have a chat on the bottom right there. Yeah, I just want to, from my side, before we jump in any questions, we have about 15 minutes. I specifically, the one thing that as I'm listening to you, and as we sort of as you're chatting through like the process of the brain and the mind and being a muscle, I had the image of a marathon. And I'm convinced I don't know why, because we are obviously a society of quick do, quick change, quick project, get it done now, that my brain has tried to teach itself into, the goal is 5 minutes from now, 10 minutes from now, when actually I'm running a marathon, and my brain needs to be ready to run that marathon. It needs to do those exercises. I need to train my brain into realizing that this journey is longer. And once you have that foundation, once you have those skills in place, and that perseverance and that purpose that you spoke of, your why, I think that will underpin, and especially for me, I think going through, I'm going to take this, so I'm definitely going to be referring to this again. I'm going to listen to it again and I think it's one of those talks that you have to come back to and listen to again. Yeah, I see there's a lot of thank yous, a lot of awesomes, amazing, I'm motivated, yes. Thank you so much, guys. Awesome. Marissa, do you have any questions or comments or anything to add?
No, I am actually I am contemplating my own life here at the moment. But it was amazing. Thank you so much, Resheka, and just that passion and that getting your why, I think, is amazing. And you know what, even if you're like, let's take me for example, my motivation, and I can show you my motivation. This is my motivation. It's my kids, and this is why I do what I do, and work and study and everything, and print it out, put it on your wall, have it in front of you all the time. If I can turn around my computer, you will see the 7 principles of learning is on my wall at the moment, so that I constantly always remember to also teach well, for students to learn well. So yeah, thank you so much.
You're most welcome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Incredible. So guys, if you have any questions for our lovely speaker, please pop them in the chat or in the Ask a Question facility at the bottom of the screen. So Resheka, I have a question from my side. I've written it down. I hope you don't mind. Hope the audience doesn't mind. So when obviously everybody comes up against, I call them like brick walls in the mind, whether that be, something's happened in my life, I've had a bad week or a month, or it's been a year, as 2020 has been, and now we're into 2021, we're all running at 100 miles an hour. How do you stop, reassess, and continue? I like, just for example, so I say something's happened in someone's life and they find themselves stuck, because I find that sort of 2020 was the year of being stuck, and how do you, or what would the advice be to someone who's looking to shift, change gear, go forward?
Okay, thank you. So that is actually a common position or situation we often find ourselves. And also, if I may just add, it doesn't matter how often you do this work, and you got to do this work continuous. So there's no beginning and there's no end. As we breathe, and we need to eat and hydrate to survive, we need to do this work to continuously stay in that good momentum. So the one thing that I can suggest to you is, whatever situation that you find yourself with, you often may find that when you're in that situation, you have the thoughts continuously ruminating in your mind, okay? That's the first thing. Those thoughts are going to ruminate, and that's part of the process of keeping you stuck. First thing is unpack those thoughts. Write them down. Get them out of your mind. This is also another reason why people don't sleep easily, because they have ruminating thoughts. So unpack it, speak it out, I prefer writing because it is an expression, and when I find writing and when my clients find that they write, it has momentum, there's movement. Once you've unpacked that, then sit with yourself and ask yourself, so that time that I talk about alone time, what does that situation mean to me? What meaning have I given this particular situation? What is the meaning? What is the stuckness I'm associating to? Also, what does stuckness mean to me? Maybe you need to reframe stuckness and also look for the opportunity in that. I'll give you an example from my own life. As I've just pointed out, curly chemo. Okay, I wasn't prepared for this in my life. I'd already gone, in my opinion, I'd already gone through the drudgeries. I had gone through, I mean, you guys who are registered for MBAs, you know what you're going through. I'd done the hard work, and I also was an overachiever. But those things were my coping mechanisms. I was doing an MBA, took on a new job that was pretty senior, bought a house, dropped it down, and decided that I left the four walls and I'm going to renovate all in the same time. Those are coping mechanisms. Now, we do that from an unconscious place. It's the same way where you find it yourself. If you have something that you're ruminating, unpack it, sit with yourself, have the conversations. Listen to other people's stories, but don't follow their path. You can gain from someone, but remember, your path is different. You can take meaning from it and look at how you can adapt, but do not try to get advice from someone else. We all have our answers that work for us, and that's best for us. I hope I've been able to share enough with you on that.
No, that's perfect. We have thank you so much for answering my question. That's like given such clarity. There's another question that's come through. I can't see the person's name. If you can give us a little wave in the chat. But someone said, how do I overcome feelings of failure and giving up due to obstacles along the way?
Okay, cool. So guys, failure is not real. Again, failure is the meaning you give to it. If I give you, again, I'm going to use myself as an example. I have tried so many things in my life. And from every single experience that I've tried, I've owned restaurants. I have traveled alone. I have run my own business, many businesses. I still have my own business. And by the way, guys, disclaimer, those of you who checked me out on LinkedIn, that's not an updated profile. That's not who I am anymore. Reason being that I wanted to gain experience, because every one of those opportunities and things that I went forward into gave me something that has added value and empowered me into a new place in my life. But if I had to look at the collective system, for example, the restaurant business, it was a absolutely crazy idea at the time, but I thought I was young and willing, and I thought I can make this work, and I wanted the experience, and it was also completely left field to everything that I was doing. I do not feel like that was a successful business, but what I gained from it is immense. I worked with people I would never have worked. I've learned about an industry that I would have never learned about. I had to be hands-on in a way that I'd never been hands-on in a corporate environment. I grew as an individual. I gained skills that I never would have gained. So can I call that a failure? Absolutely not. But if I do reframe it as a failure, the next time I see an opportunity, I'm going to be pulling back. I'm going to go, no. My brain is going to say, no, you failed. Absolutely, I did not fail. I did not fail. If you look at the bottom line of the business, and thankfully I sold it when it was still going well, but it was draining me. But I was not a failure because I gained more. I also want to add something. The reason why you feel a failure is because you've implanted that thought in your head, and now you're operating from a place of fear. And remember, fear holds you back, and the only way to persevere through fear is doing. Just do it. Doesn't matter how small the step is. Just take one step forward. When I had to recreate my life and I had to recreate my career, I was petrified. Who's going to be interested in me? How can I possibly put myself out there? People are going to laugh at me. I have no idea where to start. I came from a corporate background where everything was already done for me and I just had to present myself. Even doing this here today is a step into something where I'm now presenting myself with an organization that I hold near and dear and respect. So to be associated with that brand is extremely humbling for me, but I had to step into that. So I encourage you to take lessons from that.
No, it's incredibly powerful to own your failures in a way that is positive.
Absolutely.
I think it's in building, and it is a big mind shift because we are, as I said, like a society of people that are go, go, go. It's either you got a blue tick or you didn't. Like it's kind of like that. So, you know,
Yeah.
It's that incredible, and I mean, it's that knowing yourself, knowing your strengths, just knowing you as a basis, and then taking that forward and being like, you know what, guys, experience is experience, and what I get from it is I'm only going to get what I get from it if I say so. So it's it's that mindset that is so, like, again,
And
you're speaking amazing truths. And I think
so just remember, failure is a word that comes from past conditioning and a past story.
Yeah. No, that's very true. So we have a question from Vera. She says, how do I forget something that was said to me 7 years ago? I've forgiven her, we talk, but her words come back to me every now and again, and I have those upset feelings again. I think Vera's asking sort of, how do I have dealt with a situation or a feeling or an event, or, you know, specifically for her, it's an experience with a person. How, if I revisit that and it comes back, how do I reshift that thinking? Because obviously, if it was 7 years ago, how do you deal with that again? How do you change your mindset about that? If you have any comments on that.
Absolutely. So this is part of coaching. Basically, Vera, where you're feeling, or everyone else, whatever you're feeling, where you found that point of where you're stuck, and it doesn't matter whether you're forgiven, but that just keeps coming back. Go back to that point. At that particular point, that conversation meant something to you. Those words meant something to you. Now, the only way to change that is to reframe it. And if you go deeper into this, now this is coaching work, and depending, I don't know the details around it, so it might be even more than coaching work. It might be more psychology work as well. So I'm not a psychologist, so I cannot offer advice or guidance on that, but I can offer you in coaching. Go back to that point and look at that conversation and ask yourself what meaning you're giving to it and how can you reframe it. Also, take a step further, because the chances are something happened earlier than that to cement that point. If you can't change what had happened at that point, the questions that you got to ask yourself is, why are you giving that meaning right now? That event is in the past. Everything that I spoke about this morning is bringing yourself into the now. Bringing yourself into the now. I mean, we have teachers all around the world in different mediums, in different ways of bringing us back into the now. The point being that, as I've said, your past conditioning has a hold on you. And if you don't allow that release, and the only way to do that is, Vera, go deeper. Go deeper. Write it out. Write it out to yourself. Even if you have to. This is something I do as well. If I'm really angry with someone, and chances are, guys, you're never angry with that person, you're angry with yourself. You've heard this before, and I hate it. Even though I know it, I still hate that. Because it's all me. It's all on me. Go and find that. Find the reason as to why that is still bothering you. And my way of doing that is, and this is my suggestion with all my clients, and it does work. Talk it out. Talk to someone who can hear you, who can understand you, if you have such a person. If you don't have such a person, write it. Keep writing till you're able to release, because what you're looking for is actually a shift. And it's so subtle. But when that shift comes, it's the most amazing and beautiful feeling, and it's actually so liberating.
Awesome. So, guys, we are at the. Thank you so much, Resheka, for that response. And I think it is about, and I'm definitely going to take that, not just, Vera, for you, but as well for me, taking that forward. So we have other questions, but we have come to our hour mark, and I don't want to keep anybody too much longer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap up now, and don't worry, do not fret. We have your questions, and if you would allow us, we'd love to get in contact with you and share those answers with you. And this is it's a conversation, guys. Learning is a conversation. It's not a one way. Here's a book and I learn things. I think it's a, we challenge ourselves, we motivate, we come across things that we need to reassess and reevaluate. And I think just from today and just from my side, Resheka, I just want to say thank you so much for allowing us that space now in the last hour to just take that journey with you and to reflect and learn so much, and from your experiences as well. And I respect that, and I thank you for it in this space. So guys, I'm going to just quickly refer back to the poll. If you'd like any more information from us, we have a poll live. If you want information or courses on our programs or anything like that, the sort of the details, please just pop a yes there. If you'd like to send any other messages or any thanks, please pop it in the chat. We do welcome that. If you have any more questions as well for Resheka, I'm happy to pass on. Just pop them in the Ask a Question facility. But I just want to say thank you so much to Marissa for organizing this. Resheka, you can, if you want to hand over your contact details, you're welcome to. But if there's an email address, you can pop it in the chat. But you can also take it out of the session if you prefer. And yeah, guys, Marissa, thank you so much for organizing this and for sharing this with us. I think this is a fantastic mid-March brain march, if that makes sense.
I'll allow it.
Mid-March brain march. And I'm definitely looking forward to as we grow and share in the year. So thank you so much to all of our attendees. We really appreciate your time. And I hope that all of you guys have a fantastic week. Further take this forward. Take whatever you have taken from the session. Come watch it again. It's recorded. That's what it's there for. So we'll also share this on our social medias, guys. Follow us there. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're there. And we are, again, so grateful to Resheka for sharing her time. I want to say thanks so much. If you guys have anything you want to leave with, any final comments? Now's the time.
Just want to say thank you to everyone. Appreciate you, Marissa. Thank you. And you, Michaela. Thank you so much for your great support and for inviting me. And to everyone who took the time out this morning to listen and for your participation. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Humbly.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
I want to wave. I always wave at the end of sessions. It's one of
me
my
too. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.